The greatest wealth transfer in the history of the world has begun. Over the course of the next 20 years, there'll be a total of $70 trillion that will go from one generation to the next. Prior segment of the program, we were talking about our advice. If you are the giver of that, if you're with the one with the wealth, and we thought that advice to the giver, the person with the money, could be easily summed up in a bumper sticker that we have in our office and have had in our office for 20 odd years. Well, my office past 10. Before that, it was in Jack's office, given to us by a longtime client. And the bumper sticker provides words of wisdom. And it says, "Go first class, your heirs will." Translation, spend it. Now, obviously, if you are the giver, if you have money, there's a lot more structure and planning, thinking about the taxes, thinking about the timing, thinking about charitable giving, all kinds of other stuff. On this program, this segment here, we're going to focus really kind of more on the recipient. There's certainly been in our, what are we up to? Let me do the math. Probably somewhere around 1,700 episodes of Dollars and Cents over the course of the past 30 odd years. So we've certainly talked about that, what you do if you are the giver, but today we wanted to focus kind of on the recipient. Unfortunately, we don't have all 1,700 copies of those available online, but we do have, what are we up to? Probably a good 500 or so episodes of this program as our podcast. That allows us to receive accolades like the one we just got this past week, being named one of the top 20 financial planning podcasts on the World Wide Web, according to folks at Whelp Magazine. So welcome to Dollars and Cents, where we help you make sense out of all of life's decisions involving your dollars. Coming to you on a wide array of stations throughout Central Florida. We got 96.9 The Game. We got News Radio WFLA Orlando. Folks over on the Space Coast can listen to us on 92.7. My name is Joel Garris. I'm a certified financial planner, certified financial fiduciary with Nelson Financial Planning, where our team of certified financial fiduciary stands ready this week to help you change your life with a successful and cost-effective financial plan. We were fortunate enough on the program last week to have one of our associates, Kristen Cayley, join us to talk a little bit about taxes. We're going to have another one of our associates, Garrett Fields, join us this coming week to talk a little bit about how you can structure your life using a balance sheet, income statement kind of perspective that will really help you get a better perspective on where you are financially and ultimately how you want to look at your income versus your expenses. So that'll be on next week's show. On this week's show, let's get into some of the do's and don'ts, if you will, if you are a recipient, if you are on the lucky side, if you will, or the fortunate side, or whatever adjective you want to use. The reality is you just wound up with some money that you did not earn. You didn't do anything for it except by the virtue nature of how your parents did or distant relatives or whatever the case may be. You are now finding that you are about ready to receive, or maybe you have received some money via inheritance. So here are some of the do's and the don'ts if you find yourself in that position. The biggest do is that you want to do is you want to understand the tax implications of what it is that just happened. Now, there's a difference between qualified money and non-qualified money. Qualified money, generally you think of as money that's going to be fully taxable. Non-qualified money is money that generally is going to have a portion that represents after-tax dollars. Now, depending upon the type of non-qualified account we're talking about, maybe that profit is taxed as ordinary income, for example, if it's inside of an annuity, or maybe that's taxed as capital gain. This is where the whole step up in basis conversation comes into play. We're hearing a lot about that. Traditionally, the rule that has been around for decades and decades is that the basis of that investment then steps up to the value at the time that that individual passes, so that you're not stuck with the tax implications on the appreciation that occurred during that other person's life. That's one of the things that they're looking at changing. Bottom line, that's still considered a capital gain. It's still important to understand how that plays out versus if it is a purely qualified account. Nowadays, you used to be able to take that out over the course of the rest of your lifetime, so pretty attractive way in terms of being able to manage and distribute that money out over time. Now you've only got 10 years in which to take that money out. So that means you've got some planning to do, particularly important that you understand the tax nature of the money. What's the tax implications of what I just inherited? Another good thing to do, should you be the fortunate recipient of an inheritance, is it's an opportunity for you to really kind of look at where your personal financial situation looks like and ultimately use it to clean up some debt. If there's some debt out there that is maybe high interest rate credit cards or even student loans, those are the kinds of things that we would urge you to think about. Okay, maybe I'm going to use a portion of this money that I just got to help get myself in better financial position. It's not an open license to run out and get a new car. It is an opportunity that we encourage people when they inherit money to really use it to sort of reset the table financially, particularly if they're not in the greatest of financial shape. You want to then use the money to make sure that you're cleaning up those kinds of debts. Another thing that a lot of folks don't have, and this sort of continues that same conversation about improving your own financial position, is use some of that money to set up an emergency savings account. It never ceases to amaze me how many folks just don't really have a whole lot of cash in an emergency savings account for, in fact, emergencies, which happen, on a regular occasion. Then the reality is that if you inherit money, you've got a great opportunity to say, okay, I'm going to bank some of this, just put some of it in cash, put it in a savings account, and ultimately know that I now have an emergency savings account. All right, so let's say you've got kids, right? And you just inherited money. A great way, a great thing to do with that money once you've sort of cleaned up the debt, set up an emergency savings, is to think about, okay, if you've got kids, maybe this inheritance, particularly if it came from your parents, they would want nothing more, I would imagine, than to have the money go towards their grandkids, your kids, and maybe that involves setting up something like some kind of a college savings type of account, or at least earmarking some of the money for their continued education. So another good idea of something that you can do if you inherit that money. Now, here's the thing. If you inherit money on an after-tax basis, that's a real opportunity to supplement your overall retirement picture, because money that is after tax, as you use it, it's subject to capital gains rates, and ultimately those capital gains rates are much, much lower than ordinary income rates, which would apply if you're taking money out of a retirement account. And then lastly, on the do side, do learn to say no, okay? A lot of folks know when things transition from one generation to the other, it's called the obituary page. There are many out there who read it and then subsequently target the people that ultimately inherited the money. So learn to say no when it comes to that. We've got a few don'ts that we're going to hit when we come back. So we're going to take a break, and then we got a handful of don'ts if you are inheriting money. So we'll slide to the break, and then when we return, we'll wrap that up and then shift gears to the conversation about the annual minutes kind of scammy thing that is going on out there today whenever you set up a corporation in the state of Florida. All that and more coming up on Dollars and Cents with Joel Garris of Nelson Financial Planning.